Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you all are doing well. Today I'm hopping back in time and checking out a classic album, being The Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd. I felt this is still an enjoyable album 50 years later. I do love some rock of the 70s and 80s, but I guess part of it is because that's some of what my parents listened to when they were growing up, as well as, some of my aunts and uncles and whoever else in my family. I find this album enjoyable with its style, tone, vocals, and even solos, whether they be a guitar solo or a saxophone solo. Anyways, let's go check this album out and see why I find it enjoyable all this time later. This is the band's 8th studio album that was released on March 1st, 1973. The album has a runtime of about 43 minutes and has two singles being Money and Us and Them. The album was developed during live performances before recording began. It was conceived as a concept album that would focus on the pressures faced by the band during their arduous lifestyle, and also deals with the mental health problems of former band member Syd Barrett, who departed from the group in 1968. The record builds on ideas explored in some of their earlier works and performances while omitting the extended instrumentals that characterize their earlier works. The group employed multi-track recording, tape loops, and analog synthesizers throughout recording this album. The concept of the dark side of the moon is centered around madness, with themes such as conflict, greed, time, death, and mental illness. Parts of the album were taken from previously unused material. The opening line of Breathe came from an earlier work by Roger Waters and Ron Geeson, which was written for the soundtrack of The Body. The basic structure of Us and Them was borrowed from an original composition, The Violent Sequence by Richard Wright for Zabriskie Point. The band also purchased some new equipment for this album so they could start recording a little bit while on tour, and this was essentially the first time the band has ever tried something like this. The album was going to be named Eclipse, as Medicine Head was going to use the same exact title, The Dark Side of the Moon, for the name of their album at that time. After the failure of Medicine Head's album, Pink Floyd changed back the title name to their original preference. There also is a Wizard of Oz myth to this album, which I wasn't familiar with until I found something about it online. This myth came along in the 90s, and it's essentially about how certain parts of the album connects to certain parts of the movie. Some instances include Dorothy balancing on a fence, which is being played during the line, balance on the biggest wave from Breathe. Another example is she's beginning to jog at the lyric. No one told you when to run during time. And Dorothy is putting her ear up to the Tin Man's chest as the album's closing heartbeats are initially heard before the album repeats for a second time for the duration of the film. Now, let's go ahead and hop into some of the tracks. We start the album off with Speak to Me. With this minute intro kicking off the album, it practically captures the overall sound and theme of the album by taking certain parts of tracks and having them in there. With this track eventually leading us into Breathe in the Air. Breathe in the Air sets us off with a lot of overall theme of the album, as I feel. I love the instrumental intro on this track before the vocals come in. Time is definitely one of my favorite tracks. I love the intro with the cuckoo clock as well as other clocks chiming alongside alarms ringing. After this, we get a drum solo, which I do find enjoyable. We also get a guitar solo on the track, which is, of course, a nice touch. I did enjoy the vocals here on the track. Lyrically, of course, the track deals with time and also the realization that life was not about preparing yourself for what happens next, but about grabbing control of your own destiny. The Great Gig in the Sky is one of the sadder tracks on the album, as it's essentially talking about death. However, with that topic, I do find it to be an enjoyable track with everything that appears here on this track. Money gives us a change of pace heading into the second half of the album. The track starts off with a montage of sounds from coins and cash registers upon a few other things. This is an unusual track. As well, if you're looking at time signatures, the track starts off as a 7/4 track and eases into a 4/4 time signature once the guitar solo comes. However, the track was originally composed in 7/8 time. This is one of my favorite tracks off the album, as I feel it is heavy on solos, as we get a saxophone solo, which then leads into the guitar solo. I personally feel both solos are very enjoyable. I feel Us and Them is another great track. I feel it's a great slow tempo track within its nearly 8-minute runtime, which makes it the longest track on the album. Lyrically, the track is described as the senseless nature of war and the ignorance of modern day human who have been taken over by consumerism and materialism. Brain Damage covers the topic of mental health. The lyrics are based on former member and frontman Sid Barrett. I feel it is sad for this to happen. I feel there are ways to try and help with mental illness, and this track helps explore with talking about that. This does exist with lines such as I'll see you on the dark side of the moon, indicating that Waters felt related to Barrett in terms of mental idiosyncrasies, as well as, and if the band or inserts playing different tunes, which references Barrett's behavior near the end of his tenure with the band due to his mental problems. There were multiple occasions where Barrett would play a different song than the rest of the band in the middle of a concert. Closing us off, we have Eclipse. I feel it is a great track to end off with. I love the transition from Brain Damage onto this track as there's no noticeable break. I love its overall sound, even if the track is short, with the main instrumental out by the minute and a half mark, it seems to go well. The remainder of the track is filled by a heartbeat, which is similar to what is heard on Speak to Me, and ties us back to the beginning of the album. Thus giving us an endless loop. So yeah, I pretty much enjoyed all the tracks on this album, which I guess is rare for me to say in any of these videos. Today, I'll be giving this album a 5 out of 5. It is still an enjoyable album 50 years later. I feel this is just one of the albums from its time where I feel everyone should hear, no matter how old you are, and especially in this day and age where I feel a lot of music in the mainstream is starting to sound so similar to each other. Anyways, I hope y'all enjoyed this video. As usual, feel free to leave your thoughts down below in the comments. Tomorrow, I'll be looking at The Elephant in the Room by Fat Joe. Next week, I'll be looking at Don't Shoot Me, I'm Only the Piano Player by Elton John. I'm unfortunately not going to be looking at 2 next week, but I will be doing 2 within a couple of weeks from now, as you guys will be seeing.